Today we are making a ring with Alistair, and it's awesome because he's gonna explain us like how basically to make a ring. So
most jewelry is made using what's called the lost wax casting technique. So this ring here is very similar. I've carved it out of a type of carving wax, made all those little channels, all those little grooves in there. I take a flask, I put it on the rubber base like that. So trapping the ring standing up inside the flask. In this box here is what's called investment. Mix it with water and pour it into the flask, trapping the wax inside. I let it harden for about 24 hours and I do what's called a burnout. So I take the flask with the wax in there and the wax burns out. I melt my metal in the electric crucible. So that's where the metal is melted. I take the flask out of the kiln while it's still nice and hot, put it on the vacuum table, and then I pick up my molten metal, pour it into that opening, and then I flick on the vacuum so that gravity and a little bit of vacuum helps suck the molten metal down, filling the cavity. Once I've done the casting, I take that hot flask and I chuck it into a bucket of cold water. The plaster disintegrates and I'm left with my model in metal. So at that point there, I need to cut off the sprue, I need to saw that off, then start polishing, setting the stones, cleaning it up, and then the ring is finished. So I'm going to start cleaning up and polishing the ring. What I have to do is I have to cut off this little area here, it's called the sprue, and file it down, round the ring out, and then after that I need to harden all of these little wires in here. I need to work harden them, I need to burnish them down. The ring I make, I cut off the sprue, and then when I have enough sprues, I bring them to my refinery and I melt them down, and I get some cash, and I try to take a little vacation. And also, you said that she's a size 7?
yes.
Right now, I've got it just smaller than a size 7 because it's a comfort fit interior. And so I want to get it up to that little line there. So I want to move it maybe 2 millimeters.
He's hammering the ring.
So right now, because of the super fine wires on the ring, I need to work harden them. I need to make them much stronger. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use a magnetic tumbler. Pretty much chuck the ring inside this drum that has steel shot in it, steel needles. This is a big magnetic centrifuge. Turn it on and it starts up. To polish this ring, I use a variety of tools. I use little tiny files. I use emery paper. I use thin little strips of emery paper inside a saw frame. And I also use this silk cord with rouge and tripoli to get inside of all these little cracks and grooves. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna touch up those little lines in there just to make a little bit better transition between the wires and the rest of the shank. This is one of the most ancient tools used in the trade. It's just a sharp chisel. It's very, very primitive, but it's very, very useful. There's a couple little areas that I'm not satisfied with, so I'm just gonna touch it up now. So I'm going to use what's called an ultrasonic. Big bath of Mr. Clean and warm water, and it just vibrates all the polishing compound out of the ring before I start setting. So easiest way to clean jewelry is honestly an old toothbrush, a bit of baking soda, and a bit of warm water. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking a little tiny steel stamp that says 18 karat or 18K. And I'm gonna stamp the inside of the ring. So this is actually a pretty tricky job because you don't want the stamp to bounce and you need to make sure that the entire stamp stays perfectly vertical. and I'm just gonna start filing a little tiny groove in where I want the stone to sit. It's sort of 95% prep work, and then 5% is just putting the stone in. So what I'm doing now is I'm using what's called a heart burr, and it mimics the shape of the stone. And I'm cutting those little tiny prongs that will match the girdle or the side of the stone. So there it is. So the stone is set, looking good. That's what we're doing today, just rounding out the prongs. They're a little bit square right now, so they're nice and comfortable. One final cleaning.
There you go. Final step. Very, very, very last step.
Yeah, it's all done. Wiping off all the last fingerprints. Checking the stone one last time. No chips, no cracks. There we go. It's done. And it's yours.
Nice, thank you.